a lot of sort of cowardice and quibbling, and so they have to rally their own side too, and that's not happening right now.
On the Democratic side, because they are the governing party, I think the way they have to energize their base is very hard. They need to pass health reform, pass Wall Street reform, pass cap and trade, get a consumer financial protection agency, all this stuff. It's hard to do.
They've got to do at least some of it, and so far they haven't done much of it.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. Frank Rich, New York Times columnist, it's always such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks, Frank.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks a lot.
Last summer, Blanche Lincoln wrote an op-ed for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette saying that she was all in favor of a public option for health reform. Senator Lincoln wrote, quote, individuals should be able to choose from a range of quality health insurance plans. Options should include private plans as well as a quality, affordable public plan or nonprofit plan that can accomplish the same goals as those of a public plan. That was in the summer. That was in July. By September, Senator Lincoln had completely changed her mind, saying that she would not vote for a public option. Then by November, Senator Lincoln was not only no longer in favor of a public option, she was not only going to vote against a public option, by November, she was going to vote with Republicans to filibuster a public option. Not only completing her flip-flop, but doing so in a way that would prohibit the rest of the senators in her party who supported a public option from even having the opportunity to vote on it. Senator Lincoln is also against the Employee Free Choice Act, which makes it easier for people to join unions. She's also joined with Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska to make it illegal for the EPA to regulate carbon emissions. She also joined the Republican filibuster against President Obama's nominee for the National Labor Relations Board, Craig Becker. And Senator Lincoln's contribution to the last televised Senator sit-down with the president was to ask him what he was going to do to push back on all those darned extremists in the Democratic Party.
Are we willing, as Democrats, not only to reach out to Republicans, but to push back in our own party for people who want extremes?
Senator Blanche Lincoln is a Democrat, but it is no longer a sure thing that she is the person who the Democratic Party will have as their nominee for the Senate seat she now holds in Arkansas. Joining us now is the Lieutenant Governor of Arkansas. He is mounting a primary challenge against Senator Lincoln as of this week. Lieutenant Governor Bill Halter, it's very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks very much, Rachel. It's great to be with you.
What's your biggest concern with Senator Lincoln? What's the single most important reason you decided to run against her in this primary?
Well, I think I'd express it differently, Rachel. I'm running for the United States Senate to put Washington back on the side of middle-class Arkansas families. I've never viewed this as running against any particular individual, but in terms of running for the office. Now, there are areas where Senator Lincoln and I disagree. I could point out one right off the bat. I never would have voted for a Wall Street bailout bill without stricter accountability, and I think we're seeing how that's coming home to roost now as we spend hundreds of billions of dollars bailing out financial institutions. And at the same time that unemployment's at a 25-year high, and we have not seen the relaxation in credit that small businesses need. And at the same time that all that's going on, my fellow Arkansans and I wake up and we see tens of billions of dollars being paid in bonuses to Wall Street executives. That's just one of many areas where folks here in Arkansas are pretty frustrated with what's going on in Washington. And we're going to talk about that during this campaign.
Mr. Halter, one of the issues, of course, that has brought a lot of attention to this race nationally is health care.
Yes.
Now, Senator Lincoln's campaign is saying that you have been all over the map on this specific issue of the public option. They say you've answered the question, do you support the public option, 6 different ways. So I got to ask you, what is your position on the public option, and what do you make of their criticism?
Well, let me just say this. I've answered that question 6 times in pretty much the same way, and I'll answer it again tonight a 7th time for you. If you ask 100 Arkansans about the phrase the public option or a public option, you're going to get 100 different impressions about what that means. There has been so much miscommunication and so much actually distortion of it, and a lot of it over our airwaves down here. Let me tell you what I favor. I favor the public having an option to voluntarily buy into a program like Medicare. And I said that in all 6 of those interviews that Senator Lincoln's campaign is referencing. And I think I've said it pretty clearly to you here tonight.
If that was the sort of proposal, if you were in the Senate right now and that was the sort of proposal that was put up under a vote that took place under reconciliation rules, would you support it? Would you vote for it?
Yes, and I think this whole idea that somehow reconciliation is somehow a bad process or a rigged process or a new process that's geared just for these circumstances is totally undermined by the facts. Reconciliation has been used under Republican presidential administrations, Democratic presidential administrations. It's been used when Democrats control the Congress. It's been used when Republicans control the Congress. And in fact, a great many different reforms and changes to our health care delivery system have been passed through reconciliation.
Lieutenant Governor Halter, a ton of people have pledged a ton of money to you since you announced in a very short time. Yes. And a lot of that money has come from unions. Unions, of course, have been very frustrated by Senator Lincoln's very strong anti-union stance. Would you support Card Check, the Employee Free Choice Act, to make it easier for people to join unions?
Well, I want to clarify the money thing in just a minute, Rachel,
okay.
But let me answer your question. I've talked to labor leaders, I've talked to business leaders, I've talked to folks on all sides of this particular issue, and the fact is that the debate and the discussion is moving beyond the initial card check legislation. What is being discussed now, and what's being discussed as a compromise, is a compromise bill that would allow for faster elections. It would put some tighter restrictions upon the ability to harass or intimidate workers as they make a decision to whether or not to collectively bargain, and they would do that through the normal democratic process. I'm looking forward to seeing the specific language emerge, but I will tell you that those two concepts I do support. Now, about the money, because you brought that up, we have been very fortunate that over $1 million has been raised in contributions to my campaign in less than 60 hours. Since the campaign launched. The average size of those contributions has been around $30 per person. You mentioned contributions by labor unions. That's actually not to my campaign. It has become public, and it's been released that some folks are talking about independent efforts, but I'm not in coordination with that, nor is my campaign. And so we've raised just north of $1 million. Senator Lincoln has raised $7 million. And so I would say to all those folks out there that would like to see someone take on special interest and go straight at them, that we still need your help, and we need it greatly, and I'm very grateful for those folks who have contributed.
Arkansas Lieutenant Governor and Democratic Senate candidate Bill Halter. Sir, good luck with your campaign. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rachel, very much.
I should also note that our invitation to Senator Blanche Lincoln still stands, and we're looking forward, hopefully, to having her on the show very shortly. In their effort to win back the House in 2006, Democrats ran in part on the promise that they would drain the swamp in Washington. In other words, that they'd clean up corruption and graft and ethics violations. Well, 4 years later, with some ethics reforms passed and the swamp waters lowered, it looks like we can see... Is that? I think it might be. Oh, yeah, it's Congressman Charlie Rangel, chairman of the powerful Ways and Means Committee. A House ethics panel has found that Mr. Rangel violated conduct standards when he attended a corporate-sponsored getaway in the Bahamas in 2007 and 2008. A big no-no, clearly. But the whole iceberg, it is not. The ethics panel also investigating Mr. Rangel's ownership of rent-controlled apartments in New York City, as well as his not paying taxes on an offshore rental property, and his use of official congressional letterhead to solicit donations for a public policy center that would have borne his name. So while those investigations continue, Charlie Rangel has now asked Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to grant him a leave of absence as chairman of Ways and Means. The Speaker has granted the congressman's wish, and now California Congressman Pete Stark will likely take over the gavel in Mr. Rangel's absence. Now Congressman, not Chairman Rangel, denies all wrongdoing. For example, he says he did not even know his Bahamian trips were sponsored by AT&T, Pfizer, Citibank, HSBC, and IBM. He even says he did not know what HSBC was. For the record, HSBC is one of the biggest banks in the world. Pleading ignorance about that might be a good way to avoid letter of the law ethics charges. It is probably not a good way to make your case that you should still be heading up the most important money-related committee in the whole Congress.